For a lot of Nigerians, rains in November is actually awkward. And that is because up here in the upper part of the country, rains actually cease before this season. But in the last couple of weeks, we've experienced persistent rains, and the heavy showers have caused farmers on this side of the country to think about their products. For late planters of, say, beans and sorghum, they still have their produce in the farms, while those who are the early planters and have harvested, some are either in the process of drying or have finished drying. But those who are drying, now some have these produce being dried far away from places where they reside, and then the rains came. We thought that the major problem we were having was just about insufficiency that is making us have to import. But then we have the next crisis, and this crisis is the elements, the weathers. And so how will this be affecting food supply in the coming months will be our focus this morning on the program. And of course, from here, we'll be taking you through simplifieds as well as the markets around you and across the country. My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, welcoming you to The Policy.
My name is Obinna Charles Igwebuike.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
It aims to provide policymakers an opportunity to explain their policies in a way that members of the public affected by those policies can understand and engage with those policies.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
We begin the business of the day with major happenings that occurred in the course of the week in the economy. President Bola Tinubu this Wednesday laid his first fiscal budget proposal before a joint session of the National Assembly, as he plans for a deficit to be financed by new borrowings of 7.83 trillion naira. 298.49 billion naira privatization proceeds and 1.05 trillion naira drawdown on multilateral and bilateral loans. The 27.5 trillion naira 2024 appropriation is themed Budget of Renewed Hope. President Tinubu in his presentation said the 2024 budget has the potential to boost performance, promote the development of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, enhance security and public safety, and improve the general living condition of citizens. The budget projection places recurrent non-debt expenditure at 9.92 trillion naira, projected revenue 18.32 trillion naira, capital expenditure 8.73 trillion naira, and debt service 8.25 trillion naira. And President Bola Tinubu is in Dubai, United Arab Emirates for the COP28 Climate Summit, also known as the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference or Conference of the Parties of the UNFCCC. President Tinubu will deliver a national statement highlighting Nigeria's stance on various thematic issues at the World Leaders Summit, which is taking place on December 1 and 2, 2023 under the theme Unite, Act and Deliver. The Nigerian delegation to COP28 is seeking to explore establishing new and deeper bilateral partnerships to implement Nigeria's energy transition, Article 6 projects, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes (ITMOs), technology transfer, capacity building, and methane mitigation. The Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) this Wednesday made loud the Nigeria Supreme Court's ruling that the old Naira notes that were redesigned remain legal tender of the country indefinitely. The Apex Bank, in a statement signed by Hakama Sidi Ali, Acting Director Corporate Communications, directed banks to comply with the ruling to issue and accept old notes alongside the redesigned. The CBN urged members of the public to continue to accept all Naira banknotes, old or redesigned, for their day-to-day transactions and handle them with utmost care to safeguard and protect the life cycle of the banknotes. Nigeria and Mexico partnering to deepen trade relationship foster economic growth, and sharpen investment opportunities. Executive Director Business Development of the Natural Export-Import Bank, Stella Okotete, while receiving a delegation of Mexican businessmen, assured the visitors that Nigeria has boundless opportunities waiting to be tapped and sought their partnerships in areas of mutual interest as Nigeria continues to seek foreign capital. The visiting team, led by Mexico's ambassador to Nigeria, Alfredo Miranda, had Nigeria's ambassador to Mexico, Adejare Bello, and the Director of Economic Trade and Investment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bolaji Akinremi. Oketete gave the assurance of high returns on their investments while throwing the gates open for investment in mining and rubber industries.
Sir, I should once again assure you that with Nigeria as a country and with a very large opportunity in the export, especially non-export sector, non-oil export sector once again, you have 100% access to your FX for repatriation, and you have very huge ROI on your investments.
Obinna Igwebuike is the consulting team lead at Sawubona Advisory Services, a management consulting practice, and a supervisory director in charge of policy design and development at AT Harvey Consulting, a development consultancy, all domiciled in Lagos, the nation's commercial nerve center. It's nice to have you join me on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So perhaps I start by asking this question straight away. When we say food system transformation, what does it mean, and is Nigeria plugged in?
All right. So in answering the question of food system transformation, I think the first thing is to understand what food systems are. So food systems are, really a series of activities that go into the agriculture process, for which the output is, feeding and nourishment of populations. So it's a perspective around the agriculture sector activities that doesn't see the output as, agriculture commodities, but sees the output as, feeding and nourishment, or feeding and nutrition. Now, food is typically grown, using natural resources, so land, climate, which really composes or is composed of rainfall and, sunshine, as the case may be. So the interactions between people, between technologies, these natural resources, that lead to all the activities in the food production value chain. So from seed science, seed technology, inputs, fertilizers, so on and so forth, into food production, into processing, or storage, distribution, marketing, processing, all the way to healthy diets on the tables of people or the tables of populations. These series of activities really make up the food systems. Now, when we talk about food systems transformation, the idea is what kind of perspectives, what changes in paradigms do we need to ensure that these systems, so these complex interrelatedness or connectivities between these various activities, various people, various resources that lead to healthy food and nutrition, right? So what perspectives around these systems can make them more healthy, or can make the output more healthy and nutritious? So for example, how do we use food systems transformation to deal with challenges like malnutrition, obesity, stunted growth, and so on and so forth? How do we ensure that what the output is healthy food, right? For example, how do we ensure that food is micronutrient fortified? How do we ensure that children are not exposed to harmful and unsafe marketing, around food and beverages, those kind of things. So the first objective really of food systems transformation is ensuring that the output is more healthy and nutritious. The second objective is ensuring that the entire system itself is more inclusive, right? And more protecting of systems participants' livelihoods, especially around smallholder farmers. So in Nigeria, for example, about 80% of our farmers are smallholder farmers, and they are responsible for producing about 90% of our entire food output. Now, unfortunately, about 72% of these smallholder farmers, who make up 80% of our farmer base, live below $1.09 a day, right? So it means that whilst we have an agriculture sector that has very solid credentials and very solid opportunities, we haven't exactly translated this to productivity in the most critical, I would say, segment of participants in the value chain, right? So we need to find a way for food systems to deliver more prosperity to systems participants, especially smallholder farmers.
Okay, so if I may come in here, we noticed in the last 1 week, at least I can speak for Abuja here where I reside, that rains kept falling beyond our expectations. Climate change at play here. How is this going to affect food supply in the coming year?
Agriculture contributes about 36% to employment in Nigeria, contributes about 21% to nominal GDP. So once you have a factor, now, one of the challenges really is that about 96% of our agriculture is rain-fed. So it means that any change in pattern will affect, potentially productivity of 96% of our output, right? Now, that's a huge challenge. I remember last year, the floods that took place between September and October, and that's in 2022, which is really the worst in about 10 years, rendered about 176,000 hectares of farmland partially damaged, and about 392,000 hectares of farmland totally damaged. So this is investments, right, that essentially, we can't get any return on. Livelihoods that have been affected, right? This is supply chains that have been affected. It means that when there is less supply, at a minimum, at similar level of demand, or at a stable level of demand, it will definitely affect price. So some of the crises that we've seen in our commodities markets, in our food markets, where prices are skyrocketing, not all of it, but a part of it is also attributable to climate change, because essentially productivity is being hampered. Now, that's at the level of food production. I'm also worried about this, even at the level of processing. So if you look at our multinational food processors, right, the truth is the future of their value chains are under a lot of risk, because essentially these people, they offtake from farmers who are primary producers. So by the time these primary producers continue to lose productivity, at some point, it really will affect, the multinational value chain.
Weather forecasts. Are we paying attention to the forecast, and how vital is this for agricultural practice?
Is about 96% of our agriculture is rain-fed. So the weather is actually one of the most important capital considerations in agriculture, right? Because, no matter how well we, for example, invest in seed science or train farmers, in good agricultural practices, no matter how well we distribute, no matter how well we store, if the weather is not, if we don't adapt our farming practices to the current weather considerations, we won't even have what to distribute, we wouldn't have what to process, we wouldn't have what to store. So weather forecasts provide leading indicators that are supposed to advise farmers on what to produce, when to produce it, and perhaps how to produce it.
So what will be your policy advice for climate smart agriculture adaptation in Nigeria?
Policies have been used to correct market failures, right? So when there's something wrong, we find a policy, and the goal of that policy is to correct what has gone wrong. I think that when we talk about climate smart agriculture, policy has to be an instrument to shape the future of agriculture, right? So when we think about food security, or when we think about food systems transformation, the question will be, what kind of policies can stimulate, those outcomes, food security, food systems transformation? Now, we have a climate smart agriculture framework for Nigeria. Fortunately, I was in my role as a policy advisor to the Nigerian Agribusiness Group. I was part of the design of that policy framework. And I think that the policy framework itself has enough to deliver Nigeria's food security ambitions, right? Now, food systems transformation is a core activity in the pathway to food security, right? So what we need is policies that can promote food systems transformation such that, in addition to other things, we can achieve food security. And the reason why I say that policy is very important is the components cover pretty much all the pieces, all the levers around which we can actually achieve climate transition or climate smart agriculture transition. I mean, we want to meet our desire and our appetite for food today, but we also need to understand that future generations in 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, and so on and so forth, also will have desire for food that needs to be met. So how do we produce food in such a way that we are conscious of the sustainability of the resources that we use to produce food? And then obviously, by the time we're able to achieve all this, we have a food system that is more resilient and less vulnerable to some of the external shocks we've seen, whether it's from COVID-19 or from geopolitical crises or from even the impact of the weather. There's a national steering committee around food systems transformation. I think the steering committee is actively working with the state governments, who pretty much own the land that we use for agriculture. So that is very good. I mean, we are on the path. How quickly we'll get there, only time will tell. But I think it's also a huge opportunity for a lot of private sector investors. And we've seen, the large corporates, especially those who are globally, pretty much Nigerian offices of more global conglomerates. They actually do a lot around food systems transformation. They've seen it. It is a very important part of their risk management model, and it is becoming a very important part of even their revenue model. So I think there is significant progress. We just need to do a lot more given the strategic context of our agriculture sector.
Thank you, Obinna. That's much we can take from this, and do have a nice one.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
My name is Aldumi Ikori.
Keep watching the policy with Leah.
It aims to provide policymakers an opportunity to explain their policies in a way that members of the public affected by those policies can understand and engage with those policies.
Keep watching the policy with Leah.
We've come to that part of the program, the Do You Know segment, and so we'll simplify for you, and from there we'll take you to the markets. For more on rates from markets across the country, do well to log on to our sister website, www.marketnigeriatv.com. We have all the details for you there. We end the program here, but don't forget you can catch up with this episode and all the previous ones on our YouTube channel at Saban Media Services. Also, you can communicate with us via our various social media platforms because we value your feedback, your questions, your comments, and suggestions are highly welcome. Join us again same time next week. My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, saying have a beautiful weekend and God bless Nigeria.